Hey guys, good morning if you're watching from Asia, and good evening for those of you who are watching from the US or Europe. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to our first ever SAXO sessions. And today we are so happy to have Jody Espina, the president of Jody Jazz, with us. It's going to be a really, really exciting show. We're going to be playing with tons of mouthpieces, talking about them, and let us know if you have any questions regarding the mouthpieces or any questions to ask Jody. And let me check the chat now. If you guys are watching here on Facebook, do join us in the link above to the YouTube channel, and you can see the chat here as well, so you can ask all the questions. And yeah, it's going to be a fun one. And yeah, Jody is ready to come on, but we want to see, do let us know in the chat, in the comments, if you guys currently already play Jody Jazz mouthpieces, and what mouthpiece do you currently play. So Jody has his alto set up, and I have my soprano and tenor here. And cool, nice to see you guys. Hi Daryl, hi Justin, and Kiwai. Some Kiwai is tuning in from the office, so yeah, hopefully your colleagues or your bosses don't know that you guys are watching this. So yeah, really excited to have you guys on the show. And if you guys are new to the SAXO YouTube channel, do subscribe and you can check out more videos. And actually just last night I put up a video, and that video was comparing the Jody Jazz Hard Rubber, the HR Star, to the Jody Jazz Giant, which is quite an interesting comparison. So you can check out more videos like this. We are posting tons of videos. So yeah, let's see. Let me check Facebook and see if there's any. So let me see who I can say hi to on Facebook. All right. Okay, so those of you on Facebook, please join us in the YouTube chat so that I can just take a look at one chat. And of course, we have Shane, who will be helping to compile all your questions as well. So hopefully we don't miss any of the questions that you have. And yeah, let me see. Thank you for those who are joining. I know it could be quite late for you guys in some parts of the US, and in the morning here in Singapore and in Southeast Asia. But thank you so much for joining. And let me see. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Jody Espina, and he is the president of Jody Jazz. And man, they're celebrating the 20th anniversary this year, so that's just amazing. We'll be talking about that as well. And yeah, without further ado, let me bring on Jody, and let's see. All right. Hi, Jody. Can you hear us loud and clear? Sorry, give me a minute. Okay, let's see. Jody, and let's all right, give me a minute. Okay. Sorry. All right, Jody. Sorry for that technical technical issue right there. This is a one
like
man.
An infinity right now.
Yes. Yeah. Mine is infinity. Okay.
Mine is very finite.
Yeah, I have no idea. All right, can you see me, Jody, or still infinity for?
No, I see myself in stereo right now.
Okay, let me try to tweak that. Okay, I'll just roll with this. So welcome, Jody. Thank you so much for being on our show, and for taking the time. I know it's past 11 p.m. for you right now. So yeah, how has everything been, this COVID period for you?
I think I really have to consider myself, my family, and my workers, my employees and company fortunate. So we haven't become sick, and uh, my family is good. We've been staying at home for a long time. Um, Things are beginning to open up. Business has not been too bad. So, it's really going okay.
Mm.
So, Jody Jazz is very strong, and we're shipping out mouthpieces every day. So,
That's amazing. Jody, I'm just gonna just give me 1 second. I'm gonna just do a quick
there you
tweak
are.
over here. Uh Let me pull this up. I'm gonna get myself to be sitting beside you in the picture rather than through Zoom. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. All right, there we go. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing that. And it's been such a crazy period for everybody. But I'm not sure if you felt any change. Because for us here in Asia or in our shop, we realized that a lot of people are learning the saxophone now. You know, it's yeah. I'm sure that's happening worldwide as well. People finally are at home more. They have a bit more time, and maybe now they can finally spend the time to pick up a new instrument. Do you find that over in the US? Have you been seeing that as a trend this period?
Well, we've been talking to a lot of people who with that practice time, have time to finally get a mouthpiece, zero in on their equipment, and take the time. I've been answering a lot of emails every day,
Wow.
talking to people on the phone. When this first happened, sometimes I would be the only one up front, and I'd have one person in the back to keep my employees safe.
Mm.
But so I've been talking to a lot of saxophone players, pros and amateurs, who are taking the time to zero in on their equipment. Often beginners who are just starting, they don't come to us. They wait maybe 6 months or something. So
Mm.
the beginners usually start with the mouthpiece that comes in the case,
Yeah.
and then they get a little confidence, and then that's when they come.
Very nice. So what would you say like it's one of the really popular mouthpieces for people who are just starting out? Would that be the HR star for you guys? That you see a lot of people getting into.
Yeah, it would be usually my first recommendation,
Mm.
because it's it seems to be the easiest transition from the stock mouthpiece or the classical mouthpiece, um,
Mm.
and they can go, if a stock mouthpiece is a number 4, or
Mm.
they play a Yamaha 4C or a Selmer C Star. Those are all kind of equivalent to a 4 in my numbering system. So
Mm.
if they don't practice too much, we take them HR 5 maybe.
Mm. Mm.
If they practice 2 to 3 hours a week, maybe they practice more than 4 hours, we might go to the 6, which is the most
Mm.
popular. That's speaking on alto.
Okay.
Uh, but it's all around great mouthpiece where you can do so many styles, and we feel it's a very good price, as for the amount of work and quality that we put into it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we see that. We see that in our shop as well. It's something that we recommend wholeheartedly because for that price, and it's not even just a small step up. I think it's a huge step up in terms of the tone, the playability. So it's been doing great for us. And I think we spoke earlier, and we really feel like the strength of Jody Jazz as a company is there's no one type of sound that defines you guys because you have such a wide range of mouthpieces. So I feel like just a natural progression has been a lot of the beginners, they are being recommended the HR style and they're loving it. And then when they want a brighter sound, you guys have such a wide range to offer, or even, a warm metal sound that's, in the whole line. So we find that, that's been amazing. So they don't have to, go around and shop, through other brands to get, a brighter sound. So it's been yeah, a great observation that we've been seeing as well. So yeah, maybe for people who, maybe are new to yourself and the history of Jody Jazz Mouthpieces, how did you start um, creating your own mouthpieces?
It's very much by chance that I started doing this. Uh, I was in New York City and a professional musician and a teacher. I was head of a jazz department in a private music school. I taught in colleges and gave private lessons and played all kind of gigs, some Broadway, some
Mm.
recording, some every kind of gig you can think of, including weddings. And then I met a man named Santi Runyon, who was a famous mouthpiece maker. And I met him when he was 93 years old. And he customized a mouthpiece of his for me. I asked him if he could make it a little more, with a little more bottom in the sound and
Mm.
more free blowing.
Mm.
And he custom refaced it, and it was amazing. I told him I loved it, and he said, "Well, we can make that for you, Jody, and call it Jody Jazz." So it was his idea, and this more of this story is on TED Talk. If you
Oh.
type into Google Jody Espina and TED Talk, there's a 12-minute talk about kind of what I started doing differently that led me to meet Santi Runyon. And when he gave me that opportunity, I was fascinated with what he had done with the
Wow.
mouthpiece. So I wanted to learn from him, and I just dove into this full full time almost.
Wow.
At first, the first couple of years, I was working 18 hours a day every day because I was still teaching and playing gigs and working on mouthpieces. So over the next 4 years, I would travel to the Runyon factory 7 times a year, and I'd work 1 week at a time. And I would work all day in the factory, and then I would hang out in the evening with Santi Runyon, learning mouthpiece refacing, just everything I could. So that's how I got into it, and people started to hear about the mouthpiece. They
Wow.
knew I was playtesting from the beginning. I playtest every single mouthpiece that we make, and we still do that today.
Wow.
And no matter how good we get and how accurate, we still play test because I think it's so important. Even all the measurements that we do and take, they might seem right, but sometimes there's something you just can't measure. I can feel it in my play it. Maybe one of the tools got worn down,
Mm.
or something is strange, and then we know something's off, and we can fix it. So I guess that's a short story how we got started.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely check out that TED Talk. It's so interesting to hear that side. If I could ask, how did you know how to push this idea? I guess it started with one mouthpiece that played really well. So did Santi Runyan help you with any of the business side? To say, how can you start creating your whole line of business, or is that all you?
On the business side, not too much, because I think him and I both thought I would just sell some to my students and to a small thing. But I started researching online. This is around the year 2000, and I was looking at other mouthpiece companies out there,
Mm.
and in my mind, they were all asleep at the wheel uh, on the internet, and people started hearing about this. One place they heard about it was SAXO on the web,
Mm.
and they started hearing about the mouthpiece and ordering it from me. And early on, I saw, well, this could be a real company. So I built the website. I wrote every word. I programmed it in the way that I would want. So in a way, my whole company has been where my point of view is, what would I want as a player, and so what would I want to see on the website. In those days, none of the mouthpiece manufacturers hardly had anything on their websites, any information about the mouthpieces or about educating the customer of what's the difference and all that. And another thing I did early on was this 6 questions right from the beginning. So when people come on the website, they can answer 6 questions, and I'll get back to them. And I still do that today. I get the 6 questions, and then I recommend a mouthpiece to try. Often I'll recommend 2 or 3. It's the best way is if you can try more, either different tip openings or different models. So I don't know. I got, I guess I always say that there's some luck. I worked really hard, and business-wise, and I made some lucky decisions. I decided to travel to Europe right away. I decided to go exhibit very early on in the company. I would exhibit at the NAMM show, at the Music Messe in Frankfurt. So I was always traveling and trying to get in front of people and get people to try the mouthpieces.
Wow, but that must have been quite a difficult decision, or it seems like a risky move, because setting up booths at those places are not cheap, So, but it sounds like from the early stage you just knew you wanted to just get in front of the people and share your mouthpieces. Was that scary for you, or you felt like you had to do it?
It's because if you look at the TED Talk, it's because of what I had been doing that gave me the confidence.
Okay.
When I had done this book called The Artist's Way, and it was written for blocked writers, novelists and things. But what it did, it teaches you to unlock your creativity and to have the confidence to just go for it. So when something feels right, so I was on the wave, and I knew it was going to work. It was the right thing, and I really believed in the mouthpieces. So I was going to advertise in that higher level than many people think when they start a business. And it's always been, still is, investing, for the future, not really pulling out. The business has given me a good lifestyle and everything, but still not what I could do, but because we're always investing and trying to make it better and building it for the next year.
Yeah. Could I ask you a more, mouthpiece specific question? That first mouthpiece that Santi Ranyan worked on for you, which model in the current line was that closest to, that got you just so excited about this?
Yeah, that model, it was when we first made it, it was Santi Ranyan's mouthpiece, and basically he put a longer facing on it for me. He took some material out near the tip of the baffle and a little further in, and he gave me exactly what I wanted. And it was called a Jody Jazz. And then when I made my second model, I had to give it kind of a name, so I called it the Classic, the Jody Jazz Classic. And then we had the Jody Jazz ESP, was our first metal mouthpiece. Both of those are discontinued now. So what's closest to that mouthpiece, and I think what I made when I made the Jet, so the Jet became the closest to that original mouthpiece.
Okay.
It doesn't really look like it or the inside, but it's that kind of sound level.
Okay.
And I feel the Jet really did it very good.
That's really interesting to hear that, that origin story. So really, really interesting. And now we're going to jump into a few questions. We have Adrian here from Singapore. He asked, are there any differences in your mouthpieces if we compare the early ones you made, when you were still in New York, with the ones you are making them today? And he asked, are they from the same factory?
Is that Adrian that I know?
I think so. Adrian Chia from Singapore.
Hey Adrian, how are you doing? So the let's see, there are some differences. Okay, so in 2008, we moved to Savannah, Georgia,
Mm.
and everything is made in our factory here now. So when I first began, those first mouthpieces were being made in the Runyon factory,
Mm.
and then I would get them in New York, and I would play test everything, and often I would do some handwork, and it was just me at that time. I had
Mm.
like one employee helping,
Wow.
ship things and stuff, but and then at a certain point, I started making the HR, and that original mouthpiece was from the Barry factory.
Okay.
And then again, I would work on quite a few of those after they made them. So now we make everything here in our factory. And what we've been able to do is really, for me over these years, I've figured out the face and curve
Mm.
is the most important thing of the mouthpiece. And we have a CNC technology.
Mm.
So the Runyon and the Barry technology was molded. And when you have molded technology, it comes out of the mold kind of crude. There's a lot of handwork to be done. And that's one reason why mouthpieces historically are known to be so inconsistent.
Mm.
So it drove me crazy having inconsistency. And so that's why I was play testing and hand working. But what I do now is we have the CNC technology. We make it from bar stock.
Mm.
And what's been over these years is getting the machine and our software, our 3D drawing and everything to work together to make a beautiful face and curve that feels like hand-faced.
Mm.
It must be perfectly smooth and gentle and gradual so the reed vibrates. When a facing doesn't work, it might have like not be smooth,
Mm.
different curves.
Mm.
Anyway, that's been a long process, and even this year or in the last 6 months, we discovered a new tool that is making our facing curves even better.
Wow.
So Daniel, the models, yes, are a little different.
Mm.
From the HR Star is different.
Mm.
From those early days, we've discontinued a lot of models. The
Mm.
ESP,
Mm.
the Classic. We had a mouthpiece called the Q, bright baritone mouthpiece.
Oh.
So, but I feel like we're always trying to get better,
Mm.
and I think we have.
Yeah, for sure. When you're thinking about, possibly discontinuing a mouthpiece, what was the thought process behind it? Was it like because you found that you had a better model out there and you didn't want any clashes between the different types of sound, or what made you discontinue? Because I'm sure there was a lot of hard work made that gone into creating these mouthpieces. So what made those decisions?
It would be two things.
Mm.
If I got another mouthpiece that I felt was a little better, or two similar mouthpieces,
Mm.
the one big thought about it is to try and not make the store owner, the dealer, have to carry too much.
Mm.
Because and as it is now, I've been in business 20 years, so now I have maybe 7 tenor models. That's a lot. It starts to get a lot.
Mm.
But some companies have so many models, and it's confusing.
Yeah.
And for example, if a company comes out with a new reed, let's say they already have 4 different reeds in
Yeah.
the same company.
Yeah.
Maybe let's call it different colored boxes.
Yeah.
And they come out with a new colored box. The dealers moan and groan because they're not going to sell any more quantity of reeds, but they have to stock more quantity.
Mm.
So I've always been really thinking about the stores from the very beginning, because it's a really tough business, and it gets tougher and tougher because of online competition. And I think the store is such a beautiful thing to be able to go into a music store and try
Yeah.
things. For me, it's sacred, almost like a church. And so it's something else that I did in my pricing, where I made the list price the real price.
Mm.
And everybody in the world, every dealer gets the same discount,
Mm.
so that the price, every dealer has a chance to make the money,
Yep.
and the customer gets a fair price. So it's something I've thought about a lot. And
Mm.
discontinuing was two parts. One,
Mm.
because I didn't want the dealer to have to stock too much. The other, because I had something that I felt was better.
That's amazing, and yeah, just speaking from the shop perspective, I think speaking on behalf of everyone, we all appreciate that, not having to stock, so many models, and then, I guess some companies, they're just changing designs all the time as well, and it's so hard for us to keep track, and then all the more harder for the end consumer to even know what's happening. So we definitely appreciate it on our end, as a shop. So that's really interesting. And Adrian has another question, and I know the answer to this, but I think hearing from you is gonna be so much better. Adrian asks, do you play test every mouthpiece yourself, or is there a team of play testers?
I play test probably 40%. And I have mainly Danielle, who works here, and she's been with me for many years. She plays 6 nights a week in the Savannah Theater. She plays
Wow.
all the saxophones and clarinet, and very good player. And so she does a lot of the testing. Uh, but I'm always checking in. We have a big rack of benchmarks. Every mouthpiece we make, every tip opening, every model. So I still do it. Danielle does it. Before we start testing a tray of mouthpieces, we play the benchmark so that we feel what the best is. And, I have very good trust in Danielle in
Wow.
because we've spent a lot of time so that she would feel the same thing that I'm looking for and feel that benchmark. And she'll, it happens. I'll get trays of 50 or 100 mouthpieces, and every one will be perfect, good. Or I'll get several that'll be taken to the side. We'll take them back, see what's going on. Or every once in a while, a whole tray is messed up,
Wow.
and we have to figure out what's going on.
Mm.
And that stuff, that stuff won't go out.
Wow.
So
That's pretty amazing. I think one of the things that, people really appreciate is how accessible you are. Even though you're running a huge company, but, on social media, people see you, you're interacting, you're doing videos, it's just so amazing. And then, yeah, I'm not sure how many people knew that you actually still reply emails, from customers, taking calls, testing mouthpieces. I mean, you probably gotta have like 50 hours a day, to make all that work with a beautiful family as well. But I think that really you know shows how much you believe in the product and how much you're willing to go the extra mile as well. And just speaking of personal experience, I've received mouthpieces from you, and because they are from me personally, I get a small note, on the mouthpiece, a sticky pad, and it says, from Jody this to Daniel, you play tested it extra for me. I'm sure you do that a lot, but just small things like this, which is just incredible. And it's really no surprise that you guys have been amazing for 20 years, which is it's quite unheard of in the business, I'm sure. So we really really appreciate that, because for me, both on the shop perspective and a player's perspective, to know that. So thank you so much, Adrian, for that question. And Adrian said yes, that's him. He said you guys met in Singapore and in Bangkok. So he says thank you
Yes,
for the answer.
I
Yeah, that's
remember.
yeah. Actually,
Good to see.
Adrian is actually coming on my show together with Eric Falcon later tonight our time, so early morning for you guys. We'll be having another, yeah, I call it Mouthpiece Madness, three-way chat. So that's going to be fun as well. Adrian really knows his mouthpieces, 30 over years of buying, selling, trading, and it's gonna be a fun talk. And then coincidence also that Eric Falcon used to work for Jody, for you, right?
Yes,
Ah,
for about a couple years when we
nice.
first moved to Savannah.
Cool. Yeah, definitely didn't plan it that way, but yeah, there are, linkages all around. So thank you, Adrian, for that question. And I think that leads super nicely to, you guys celebrating your 20th anniversary. And then maybe you can share with the rest what are the special models that you released this year.
Okay.
Mm.
Um, let's see. Well, we did release a 20th anniversary
Mm.
DV. We put it in platinum, and it sells for more money because there's only it's got that platinum plating. It's a little warmer
Mm.
sounding. Um, there's only 100 tenors and 100 altos, so it's a limited
Mm.
edition. And we quickly sold it all out. We sold it through the dealers,
Yeah.
so we didn't sell it direct to customer at all.
Mm.
And I think most of them are probably gone. We get calls from customers trying to find them, and we call some of the stores we know who have them and see if they have any left.
Mm. Mm.
So if anybody's interested in that, uh, I can, if you're answering somebody's question later, I'll grab one and show it to people.
Mm.
It's very pretty.
Yeah.
But that was just to celebrate the anniversary.
Mm.
And we were surprised, how many kind of fans are out there, because the mouthpiece, it's $1,000.
Mm.
So, and it did really well.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
We
we
were
released
fortunate. Sorry. Yeah.
the custom dark
Mm.
tenor.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, uh, custom dark tenor
Mm.
has a lot of cool stuff. It has Shedville rubber.
Mm.
So 2 years ago, I bought a company called Shedville, which is old French company, and they were very famous in the clarinet world. I
Mm.
wanted to make classical mouthpieces, and I didn't want to market it under Jody Jazz.
Mm.
So I was able to buy the Shedville, and I got this special formula for rubber,
Mm.
and it's very expensive, but it's softer, it's purer, and it has a warm sound. So the custom dark, it's called the HR Star Custom Dark. It has rounded sidewalls inside, big round chamber. It's a darker, warmer mouthpiece. And one day I was sitting there with the prototypes, and I was looking at this tray. See, I have this tray of power rings,
Mm.
and I'm looking at the tray, and I was going to put a band on the end, but it was going to be a thin brass band. And I took the soprano sax power ring and I shoved it on the end, and it like made the sound have more body. So part of what makes the power ring good is how thick it is,
Mm.
and it's heavy.
Mm.
So that gave the mouthpiece another boost.
Mm.
And it's just you heard you heard before, Danielle, how much difference the top end is on the HR Star
Mm.
and the custom dark,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So it's this, maybe it's me too, as I get older, I like keep gravitating to more beautiful sound. Although the DV is still, probably my number one mouthpiece. on alto right now, but I'm developing the custom dark on alto,
Yeah.
and I've done a few gigs on both the custom dark tenor and the alto. So the alto is almost done here. This is one of the working prototypes right now,
Wow.
and I'm loving that. I'm loving
Wow.
the just the beauty part of it. So that was really exciting for me, doing the custom dark tenor and falling in love with it. It's so like here's the HR star. How's that? Is that feeding back?
No, it's great. It sounds really good.
Okay. So remember that top in there. And like I say, I mean, the HR Star is just a great all-around mouthpiece.
Yeah.
But people who are looking for this warmer, darker thing. I don't know if you can hear it.
Yeah, it sounds. I at least for me, I can definitely hear. Just richer, warmer, and just such a beautiful sound. And sometimes I'm like that as well. I generally play a lot of pop and smooth jazz, so I love the super jet. But there's just something about the HR and the and that warm, lush sound, which is so inspiring sometimes, to hear a different sound. I'm sure people have many different takes on this. We should always have just one sound, for ourselves, but for me, maybe same thing as I'm getting older, I'm like, I just want to be happy, and I want to put on a mouthpiece that, inspires me to go, a certain place. And yeah, and that's why I end up having so many of your mouthpieces, because it's all so fun and good. And man, and thank you so much for showcasing that for us and for sharing with us about the prototype of the HR Dark alto mouthpiece. That's just amazing, I'm sure, and thank you for sharing with the people. You guys are hearing this for probably the first time, that it's definitely gonna be coming out. And, Jody has been testing them and using it on his gigs. I'm sure you'll never release it until you are, 100%, satisfied and loving it, So
yeah, and this is more or less what I usually do when I get to what I think is the end. I'll send a few out to some trusted, some endorsers, some people. But I pretty much get it to where I think I'm done, but then I check it with some people. So we're making some today.
Wow.
That we're going to be sending out in a couple days.
Wow.
But you and I heard you on the HR Star earlier tonight, and you darken a mouthpiece.
Yes.
With the way you play it. I probably brighten a mouthpiece with the way I play it. So that's something you can never tell. Somebody says, I want to sound like this. I want to sound like this player or that. You still can't tell what the right mouthpiece is for them.
Yes.
Because they may make it darker or they may make it brighter.
Yeah.
That's why it's. Some people say, "Oh, the mouthpiece doesn't matter, just practice." But if people take the time to try enough mouthpieces, and they'll realize how much difference it does make. Of course, you have to practice.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to practice.
Yeah.
But it just can make the journey so much more fun.
For sure. Sometimes I play the Super Jet, and people ask me, "Oh, what mouthpiece are you using?" I'm like, "It's a Jody Jet Super Jet." They're like, "No way." Just no way, that, but I was like, if you work with it, and that's the other thing I really love about your mouthpieces, it is a wide spectrum. It can be the Super Jet, and of course, we could, um, break glass with that, but I use the same mouthpiece if I'm feeling like, playing along to a Stan Getz record. It works. I don't have to, take out my HR star to get that sound. So every single mouthpiece has such a wide range, and that's the number one thing I tell customers and students. You can be playing a Dukov, for if you want, but can the Dukov let you play classical? Or also just nice ballads, might be a bit tough, because the spectrum is not as wide. But for yours, and I'm a walking example of that. I'm not fighting to try to get spectrum, but yours makes it easy. Some mouthpieces are, yeah, it's either too dark or it's too bright, and then I can't go anywhere. So is there something about, is it the chamber, or what makes, let's say, a super jet still have such a fat, and I mean the baffle is really, really, really high. But man,
Yeah.
when everyone tells me they wouldn't believe, that a warm sound can be created with that.
So, and this was interesting, and I had just released the Superjet Alto when I came to Singapore,
Mm.
and I was on a 2-week tour that was in Singapore, Indonesia, and I think I ended up in Bangkok, and I was playing with Mr. Ko,
Yeah.
and I was playing in a hotel lobby. This was the end of the 2 weeks. I had been playing the Superjet for 2 weeks. I was playing just with a piano player, and it was not. I was playing softly with no mic, but I was as sweet and soft as I wanted to be, and so that 2 weeks, I really got so used to the mouthpiece where I could do whatever I wanted on it. But what happened in this mouthpiece, and the tenor as well, the struggle was, as you say, this mouthpiece has so much power. The struggle was to get the bottom in there. And I'll tell you where it came out, because I didn't have enough bottom, and I was really struggling with it. And basically, this is a simple shape. You have the first part, and then you have the second part. And what it was playing around with a million different, or many, many prototypes, where we made this first step longer or shorter, and then like where do we start the break, and how much do we break, all those angles. And it seems simple, but where you put that break right there, like if you put it here or down further, makes a big difference. And so the jet has kind of there's something similar, but it's rounded off, and the jet is not as powerful as this one. So that was something that I really worked on, and it's to get enough bottom out of it. Like this is the DV. So, and the DV, if people haven't seen it, it has this, what I call the secondary window.
Yeah.
And part of that is the patent on the mouthpiece. That opening under the reed really adds bottom to the sound. But so I was making the Superjet. I still really, really wanted bottom. I always have to have like you say, a full spectrum of sound. So so I'm just going to try and focus on that bottom right now. Let me get this reed. So normally, I want to play a little harder reed on the DV and a little softer on the Superjet and the Jet, because they're very different facing curve. It's a shorter curve on the Jet and the Super Jet. So, and that shorter curve doesn't help with the bottom. It helps with the Altissimo. It helps with the focus. So with the shorter curve, not as much reed gets to vibrate. So that's why a softer reed works. So normally if I optimize each mouthpiece, that DV, I would be playing a little harder reed than this, and on the Super Jet I would be playing a little softer. It's something I'm always trying to make people aware of, is how important the actual reed strength is for each mouthpiece.
Yeah.
Most of the reason you don't like a reed, like you only like 3 reeds in a box, is because they're all different strengths.
Yeah.
And the ones you don't like are too hard or too soft. Most of them are a little hard. They feel stuffy. They feel like terrible reed. Most of that is it's too hard. So let me do this again. Now we really have a lot of top on this if we want it.
Yeah.
And very fun Altissimo. Whenever I get somebody to play a Super Jet and they say they're playing all around it, they're liking it, I say, play Altissimo. And they go up to the highest note that they know, which might be a high C or a D.
Yeah.
Or maybe. And I'm like, play higher. And they're, I don't know that. I said, just raise your eyebrows. Yeah, you don't even have to play fingers. But so it's a lot of fun, and you can still. A lot of super bright, powerful mouthpieces can't do that. So.
For sure.
And it's just, it looks so simple inside, but it took me months to get that where I wanted it.
That's just amazing. I mean, when you play body and soul like that, no one will instantly think that, man, that's a super high baffled mouthpiece, And of course it's the player, but the equipment and the mouthpiece we choose really needs to facilitate that. Of course, if someone practiced all day on a mouthpiece that doesn't have spectrum, perhaps after 10 years maybe they can get there, but that's just too much work, which we shouldn't be getting a mouthpiece and then have to fight so hard to try to get it to work. And I think the other amazing thing about the Jody Jet, the Super Jet, is the price point. For a bright metal mouthpiece, I would say that's easily one of the most competitively priced options out there. And there are some that are twice the price. And of course there is a space and market for all types of brands. But I'm not sure, how did you is there was there something you decided, like, okay, with the Super Jet, I'm gonna try to work out the price point? Was that a conscious decision?
Exactly. That was like, how can it's got to be as good as anything. It's got to be great. But how can I save money? So the main 2 ways are with this, I don't know if you can see, but it's what we call matte finish.
Yes.
So what this means is I don't have to sand and polish, buff. Okay, so that's two operations that I was able to take out of the mouthpiece. And then instead of gold plating, which is very expensive, silver plating, which is actually a great plating for musical instruments. So, and because this is a brighter mouthpiece, silver can lend itself to that. But silver has proven itself, over time, especially with brass players. They seem to like silver plating better than gold plating for the most part. Michael Brecker liked silver plating over gold. But gold does lend a little bit of warmth. But and then this other thing, the simple aspect of this is not, it's not complex. So I was able to save money in those ways, and then just, you know, try and find that different price point between the DV and the HR. So it's done very, very well. The DV still does super well.
Yeah.
Even though it's expensive. It's underpriced, actually, the DV now, because of the price that gold went up to. If I tell you all the steps that this mouthpiece takes, this is the most complex mouthpiece we make.
Wow.
And so I'm not making the profit that I would like on this one. But I haven't wanted to raise the price yet. But
yeah, but that's really good for us to understand, you know, how the Superjet is still a great mouthpiece. I guess you're not trying to make a inferior product, you know, you just took out steps that you feel, you could save some cost, and it's really saving costs for the consumer. You know, it's not as though you're doing those things to get more money in your pocket, but you know, and us as a shop, we love to give people options. You know, if we only sold, let's say, the DV, you know, or the DV New York, you know, that might turn away some customers, you know, who are just saying that, you know, that's a big chunk of my paycheck. Do you have something else? And I guess the Superjet, and we're not telling people to compromise, you know, it's a different sound, you know, and the price point is so attractive, you know. So I think that's been amazing for us. And you know, same theme that, you know, goes around why we love your product so much, because the pricing, you know, I feel like it's definitely punching above its weight class. You know, like it could have cost more and people would still buy it. You know, you're pricing your HR style at below $200, you know, which is just, you know, even if you put it at 200 or 250, you know, people would still buy it, you know. So I always tell people, you know, in the shop, like, we love to sell expensive stuff, you know, so don't get me wrong, you know, we make a good, you know, chunk of change if we sell you, you know, a solid silver Salmon series 2 or 3, you know. But, you know, it gives me so much more joy when I can recommend products that punches above its weight class. You know, you're getting a value for money, and this goes across, you know, from reeds to saxophones and mouthpieces. And, you know, I think that's why, you know, people are just loving it for sure, you know. And I know you have you know, did some tweaks, you know, in terms of, you know, things like ligatures, you know. So for those who maybe are not familiar, like the HR style used to come with the D'Addario H ligatures across all, you know, but most of our customers, they would have a ligature as well already, you know, so it's not going to be life-changing. And, you know, but those are things that I know you as a company did to try not to increase the price to the end consumer, and just make small tweaks. So I'm sure that was a tough decision for you as well, you know. So is it a conscious decision to, you know, try to keep, let's say, the HR star at below 200 and, you know, to have that price?
It's exactly that, because there again on the HR star, the profit is not what I'd like it to be, because it's artificially under $200, because that's like a you know, psychological price point for a consumer. So it was either raise the price of the mouthpiece or take the ligature off. And very few places in the world do I have any pushback. And South Korea is the one where I have the most pushback for some reason.
Interesting.
But like you say, everybody already has a ligature. Everybody usually gets another ligature. Our power rings are doing so well now.
They are.
We had some reviews on them, and one guy reviewed 25 ligatures, and he put the power ring at the top, and he had all the ligatures that you know, the
Wow.
top, most expensive ligatures, everything. And he liked the power ring the most. So it's doing very well.
Yeah.
Simple, elegant. It adds body to the sound. I
Yeah.
can't live with another ligature anymore because I'm just like, I'm so fast, and I love the way it plays and sounds. So
Yeah, it's been a good you know, top up, additional item that we'll tell our customers. We have, the full range. We have the silver plated, we have the gold plated power rings, and man, so easy to use. I think that's one of the things that customers tell us a lot, just put it on, it fits perfectly, and it adds that power, and that resonance. And sometimes people will feel that, hey, that makes it, I feel like it makes the reed feel softer actually, because I'm sure it's resonating, it's vibrating more, so those are things that I look for. And sometimes I tell customers, it may not be that it's just brighter, it could be just that your reed is allowed to vibrate so much better, and then that comes across to your ears as though you're getting a brighter sound. But actually I feel like that's the resonance that we should already hopefully get out of the reed, and perhaps sometimes, our setup could be too stuffy. It's not allowing for the reed to vibrate, and then we get an artificially darker sound, So I'm all for, recommending products that allow for the reed to vibrate more. And then suddenly they feel like, hey, the HR Star, I can do so much more, not just because of the mass on the power ring or anything, but I think it just conducts the read really well. So easy to use. Do you find that that response from people, like instantly they feel like they're getting a brighter sound when they put on the power ring?
for me, usually don't think of it as bright, but I do get better response. But I feel like the reason I called it power ring, I feel like it gives me a little more sound. I always call it body in the sound, and it may be, it's like we think of these things differently sometimes, but because, like you're saying, the more vibration, you may feel those higher partials more. But I usually don't feel it, but it's about 75% of people, and they go, wow. And it's almost impossible to hear, I think, over the technology we're using.
Yeah.
But in person, most people feel a big difference. And sometimes they don't feel a difference, or they don't like the technology of just sliding it down or something.
Yeah.
But it locks down, it stays in place.
Yeah.
You know.
And I see that you have the HR Star Dark right there, so maybe you can give everyone a sample of this.
It's been so much fun, and what I've been doing is during the week I'm here, I'm playing all the different prototypes, and I'm trying a lot of other mouthpieces. So to see where this is in the spectrum, other brand of mouthpieces, because in this spectrum there aren't many choices on alto. There's many choices on tenor. But when you want to go darker than a Meyer, it's darker than my HR Star. There's hardly any choices. So I do that during the week, and I just try a lot of things, and trying to figure out where to put the darkness or the timbre, the sound. And then on the weekend at home, I play along with a lot of recordings, and I'll listen to Johnny Hodges. I'll listen, I listen to a lot of Charlie Parker lately, and on some recordings his tone is so beautiful.
Mm.
And so I'd start to understand the top end that a lot of the mouthpieces give,
Mm.
that I'm trying to pull that top end off. If you've ever recorded in a recording studio on alto, often you're saying to the engineer, hey, take down the highs.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about that, and I'm taking down those highs here.
Mm.
We can still get loud, we can still get altissimo, but we have pulled down. It's just like the EQ, and we've
Yep.
taken the highs down.
Mm.
So I've been doing gigs during this coronavirus. I've been doing some streaming concerts. I just did a porch concert today,
Wow.
and I did one on Sunday. We play on somebody's porch, and the neighbors come around,
Wow.
and the owners of the house pay us, and then people tip, and they've been tipping a lot of money.
Wow.
But I did a bunch of those porch concerts, and one of the streaming concerts I played the custom dark tenor and alto,
Mm.
and man, it was nice. Like I said, I'm loving the beauty.
Mm.
But today I went out on the porch outside at the beach, and I know I was playing for a big outdoor area,
Mm.
so I took the DV,
Mm.
and it just kills it for me.
Mm.
It's the
Wow.
best of both worlds.
I mean, just now when you're playing, it's like the closest word to describe it will be just buttery. It's so warm and fat, and man, it just feels like I'm melting. When I hear that tone, and I'm sure
Thank you.
people who are, let's say, they're already holding on to or playing your HR Star. I think that will be a very, very nice addition. And I think even in the shop, we are not, of course, we would love to tell people that one mouthpiece your whole life could do it, and I'm sure there are people, Phil Woods has been playing that same mouthpiece his whole life, and there are merits to that, but I feel sometimes people actually compromise, because they're not really loving, their current setup, but they're just telling themselves, no, I'm just gonna bash through for 10 years, and then maybe I'll make it work, but sometimes I feel, if you guys are already holding, enjoying your HR Star, and you hear, some days you just want slightly, less highs, like you're saying, and of course we can do it with our embouchure and our airflow, but yeah, I think it's always nice to have, several in your, small collection, and to be able to just enjoy the music. For me, it's like, paying for my own personal enjoyment, so I highly recommend people to just try. And if you don't try, you never know, whether you like something else better. Yeah.
Well, what happens so often, Phil Woods, has a great mouthpiece, but a lot of people have been playing the same mouthpiece for 20 years, sometimes 30 years, and they just went to the local store. It's like when I was 17, I was playing with all these older musicians in a big band, and we were playing for the famous people who came through town, and I was playing baritone sax, and I got the gig, and I had to go to the local music store, and I got a mouthpiece that's a well-known mouthpiece. It was probably it was a metal baritone mouthpiece. It was the only metal baritone they had, and I played it, and I'm playing these gigs, and we had to sight read this music. We'd have a rehearsal in the afternoon, play the show at night, and do maybe a week at a time. And some of those times, low notes, low C, low B, really mezzo piano, and I was barely cutting it. And then I got Jody Jazz, and I started making mouthpieces, and I made a bunch of good baritone mouthpieces. And one day I found the shoebox of old mouthpieces, and I found that mouthpiece that I bought when I was 17.
Wow.
I put it on. It sucks. It's so bad. And now, I used to beat myself up. Why am I not nailing this low B at a pianissimo? The mouthpiece, I can't get it now. It's terrible. So this happens all the time. Somebody comes up, I'm at a trade show or something. I have all my mouthpieces. They come up and they start trying. The first mouthpiece they put on, they go, "Oh my God," and then they try another one. "Oh my God," and they've been playing a crappy mouthpiece for 20 years. So, you know, you don't want to do that. Life is too short.
Yes.
When the mouthpiece can make so much difference.
Man.
And believe me, the reed is just as important as the mouthpiece. It's a 1-2 punch. You gotta have the mouthpiece and the reed, the right reed. So this experimentation is not, some people think it's distracting. You should just practice. Well, you might be just practicing and have a bad mouthpiece. There are a lot of good mouthpieces out there. There are a lot of bad mouthpieces out there.
Yeah.
And a bad mouthpiece makes it feel like your horn is leaking. It makes you struggle, push. You can't get your low notes, or you're out of tune, or something. You know.
Yeah.
So it's worth it for everybody. It's not frivolous.
Yeah.
To every once in a while go explore some equipment.
I think that's the exact thing we try to tell our customers. You know, for those of you who are watching, you know, just we're not asking you to buy every new mouthpiece that comes on the market, but I think, you know, players, you know, we owe it to ourselves to at least give it a try. You know, if it doesn't work better than your current mouthpiece, sure, you know, just you don't have to buy it, you know, but you know, I think it'll be doing you a lot of favors as the player, you know, if you just try, and if you do find something better, and you know, if you find the price is reasonable and it makes your life easier. You know, I tell that to the customers all the time. Life is too short. You know, you're fighting and trying to use that last reed in the box because you don't want to go down and buy another one. You know, it's like, yeah, you want to hear good sound when it's coming out, and
And I totally agree about this. I can't. Very hard for me to practice with a reed that I don't like. It's depressing, and I'm spoiled because I'm a Diodario artist and I have free reeds. And but still, I never would practice on a bad reed. Some people say, "Well, I'm going to practice on my bad reeds, save the good ones for the gig." It just didn't work for me. I have to. When you have a good reed, you just love it. You love it, and your good mouthpiece. You love playing, and that's what I'm always trying to have.
For sure. You know, maybe could you share what reeds are you using in the Diodario line? What's your favorite for all your horns?
So it's mostly Select Jazz, and I think this one is a 3 soft.
Okay.
Actually, this one was a 2H. I had a 3 soft today, and this 2H actually, because I've been playing this 3 soft a little while, the 2H is actually now a little bit harder. Like I say, you know, the reeds do vary in strength. But mostly I'm on 3 soft or 3 medium with a DV. If I'm on a jet or super jet, I'm mostly on 2H. So it depends a little bit.
Okay.
On the my classical mouthpieces, I'm liking that reserve reed. I'm also liking some Mitchell Lurie's. I did also come out with a clarinet mouthpiece this year. The HR Star clarinet. And I'm liking, for jazz, I'm liking Mitchell Lurie. And for classical, I'm liking the reserve.
Nice. And for your Select Jazz, is it usually the fouled or the unfouled ones?
I think I mostly go with the unfouled.
Unfouled, yeah.
Slightly darker. But I can like the filed also.
Yeah, same. I feel that unfouled tends to be a bit darker, and you know, if someone just wants slightly brighter, you know, slightly more free blowing, the fouled ones work well as well. So yeah, those are nice. And yeah, nice to hear, you know, like what are your personal preferences or so. So if you guys are, you know, having a Jody Jazz mouthpiece and you want to try some reeds, you know, you can go ahead and try the Diodario Select Jazz and see if that works for you as well.
The other reason I like them, because they come in 3rd strengths. So soft, medium, and hard.
Yes.
And so you can, the idea of the right reed to me is getting the right strength.
Exactly.
If you can get closer in that box, that's what
Mm.
it's about.
Yeah. I actually label every reed in my box. Once I get them, I
Uh,
play them all. So from like 1 to 5, let's say on tenor, 1 being the
yeah.
softest and 5 being the hardest. So I don't have to, like the next day my embouchure feels tired or something, I straight away know, what number to go for. So yeah, I totally agree. Sometimes, people don't give these reed companies a chance because for example, I'm just going to use Vendoran. They're great. But some people come and tell me, that Vendoran is horrible. I'm like, okay, what mouthpiece and reed are you using? They are saying like, I'm playing a size 8 mouthpiece with a size 3.5 Vendoran traditional. I'm
Blue
like,
box.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, you are not doing
Forget
them.
about it.
Yeah, justice is not them. It's probably you, for choosing the wrong size. I said, why don't you try a size 2 or 2.5? And then suddenly they realize, oh yeah, you're right. But they've already told 10 friends that Vendoran is one of the worst brands out there. So
Yeah.
it's just something that is a pet peeve for me actually. So that's why I'm so motivated to try to just educate people. I'm not trying to push for sales or anything because you can buy anything from any brand in my shop and we'll still turn a profit in that sense, but finding the right gear, for that one individual, that gives us the most joy, and reach strength is really the most important thing. Like sometimes, I change within the cut. Like I use Marca reeds from France, and they're great if I know how to choose the right one for the right day. Playing around with the different cuts just to try to tweak with the intensity because like for Marca, they're still using the half sizes. So if I feel like I need something harder, but a half size would be too much, so I may
Yeah.
change the cut and play around, and that's what we try to tell our customers as well. I mean, same like Leger, great reads, and I think the benefit is also because they do quarter sizes, so
Yeah.
and so yeah, I'm glad that you are sharing that as well, how important the reed sizes are. And sometimes it may be unfair to you as a mouthpiece maker as well because they don't put the reed size on, and then they'll say your DV is not good, which is I feel very unfair, if we don't help the customer to find the right reed. Yeah.
And most often with that is they're playing too soft a reed, and that reed might have felt fine on a mouthpiece with more resistance. But the DV, for me, this is efficiency. It vibrates so efficiently that there's very little resistance. So you need to get the resistance you want in the reed. So we're so used to talking to people, and they say, I don't like the mouthpiece. I can't get my high notes right. What reed are you using? Well, it's 2.5 or 2. I'm saying, well, that's just not going to work with a DV or a DV New York. And so for a time, we sent a reed with every mouthpiece, every DV.
Oh, wow.
And we'd send a 3 medium just so people, and they'd call and they'd say, well, I'm not returning the mouthpiece. And I said, did you try the reed in the box? Because you're playing a 2.5. Did you try the reed? No. Try the reed and call me back. And they'd call me back and say, okay, I'm keeping it.
Wow.
So,
that's interesting.
Huge.
I think that might actually help a lot of people who are, because the other thing I know you share a lot and we do as well is that let's say you're playing a size 7 Maya, and if you want a DV, you if you want to get a size 7, you would have to go up a strength in reed, or you could consider a 8, in that sense, if you want to use the same reed. So we usually tell people it's definitely more free blowing, and we just try to recommend them the right one. Do you feel that as well? Is it easier to go change the size of the mouthpiece if let's say they're buying a new one, or reeds would be the easier one to maneuver?
It's so hard to say because what I've realized over time is that it's not just the tip opening, the distance, it's the length of the facing curve. So normally a more open mouthpiece would have a longer facing curve. So depending on how much mouthpiece somebody takes in their mouth, that's why, you know, two people play the same mouthpiece and one, it doesn't feel right for another person
Yeah.
because they take a different amount of mouthpiece in.
Yeah.
So, and if the mouthpiece is made well, you can play a 5 to a 9 or even a 10. If people are always amazed, they try my 10-star tenors and stuff, and they're, that's not so hard. I'm like, yeah, it's not so hard. You can play it. It's made well. So, but in most of my models, the bigger the tip opening, the longer the facing curve, meaning it starts further away from the tip. I have certain models. I have so many facing curves, different schedules going on in different models. Many. But that typical thing is it's the bigger the opening, it's longer. So that's part of, you have to be able to deal with that. The mouthpiece is efficient enough where if you practice, 10 hours a week, or you play 10 hours a week, you can probably handle even the biggest tip opening if you have good air production. But does that facing curve work for you? And then the Giant that you tried the other day, it has a different approach where the length of the facing curve is not changing because of the tip opening. So there's a whole different thing going on there. Like the 10-star is not a real big, long facing curve.
Interesting.
So,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. There's all kind of little stuff going on.
Yeah, and I think, understanding the facing curve, for me, I realized very early on that, that was the difference between the models. And, so for now, for me, this face, I started with your DV, on both auto and on tenor. And now I just feel that, in this stage, like, the facing curve is not my favorite for now, and it's nothing against the mouthpiece, but somehow the HR Star and the Superjet just works better for me now, and that's perfectly normal, and same for other customers, and and it could be vice versa. You love the DV facings on it, and the Superjet doesn't work for you, and that's fine. It's not because it was a inferior product, it's just the design aspects are different. And I think that's why we wanted to have you on as well, to really hear from you personally. They're all different, and because you have such a wide range of mouthpieces, I think it's great that people can try, and you don't have to sort of like pass judgment so soon. Try all of them and see which one works better for you, and that's what I think it's really amazing. And and do you think down the road, like, you see yourself having more different models, or would it stay the same or cut down? What do you think the future holds in that sense?
We kind of have in the last couple years, developed this overall architecture of in the way that the HR Star has the regular HR Star line and the custom HR. So that may develop into the Jet line as well. So, and we, HR, Jet, DV. DV has 3 models. So there's something that's beginning to come into focus. But I do have something else in mind too.
Nice. All right.
Which is, so, we have to challenge ourselves too, not just to make something up for the hell of it, but to see. I've never really tried to make what do you call it? Copies of vintage mouthpieces, and that's cool. That's something that's totally viable and valid.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to do always something a little different.
For sure.
And I want to do something that's even more different. So,
wow.
So that's something that may take shape or not. But if we do, it's going to be quite different
Wow, that sounds
in a
interesting.
mouthpiece.
Nice. So
Yeah.
yeah, for we're definitely eagerly awaiting any new products you have, and for people watching, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also follow Jody Jazz Mouthpieces on all their social media platforms and on YouTube as well. To keep updated with any new exciting stuff they're doing. And if I would just touch a bit on not copying vintage mouthpieces, I mean, I think that would be very clear for a lot of the customers. I mean, the DV is nothing like anything that has come before, and same for the Super Jet, same for the Jet. I think, and that's one thing that I guess sets you guys apart from some other brands as well. It's really original in that sense. And even the HR Star, you can compare it to a lot of the similar blowing mouthpieces, but I've tried all of them, and we stock a wide range. It is unique. It has something in there that is itself. I don't even generally like to use other brands as comparisons, because it's not a Maya, it's not anything that is similar. Yeah, of course the sound is in the same ballpark in that sense, but I think what you guys have achieved is so different. But maybe a question that just came to my mind, I'm sure you have played all the most amazing, let's say, alto hard rubber mouthpieces. Were
Yep.
you trying to take like the best features of each of those legendary mouthpieces and create your own? Was that one of the thought process behind it?
In the HR
In the
Star?
HR Star, for example.
Yeah, well, that main thing is like when I was still in New York and I had the loft,
Mm.
all the great players would come through,
Mm.
and I would play. I would ask to play. Can I play your mouthpiece?
Mm.
And so they came through with a lot of great vintage mouthpieces.
Mm.
Meyer, Berg,
Mm.
Link,
Mm.
all of them had a really thin tip rail, and they all blew really freely. So that was just one thing that's always stuck with me.
Mm.
But in the HR Star, I felt like where Autolink and Meyer are such a standard, and they're good mouthpieces, very good. But I felt like that standard, so many players were writing to me and saying, I'm playing in a big band and I'm not getting enough volume. And the reason is because big bands play louder now than they used to
Yeah.
in 1950 and 19 even 60 and everything. Big bands play stupid loud now. So that I wanted to make that thing with a classic hard rubber free blowing jazz mouthpiece, but that had a little more edge, had a little more volume. So it was very simple. And whenever I make a mouthpiece, I'll have all the brands that are in that range, and I'll play them just like I'm playing a lot of mouthpieces now for the custom dark. I don't want to do what's already there. I really want to hit something different. Of course, first it's got to be efficient, blowing well. It's got to have all the spectrum. But I'm looking for some tonality that's a little different that you can't find anywhere else. So, and I think I've got that on the custom dark. So it's kind of interesting. It blows differently too than the HR Star. The rounded sidewalls and the rubber make it blow different, which means it lets you spread out a little more when you put your air in there. So
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have a Old Meyer New York original, and it's just different. There's no it's not a copy. It just has a totally different vibe, you know. So definitely very interesting. Another question regarding this: do you usually test your full range of mouthpieces across different types of saxophones, like vintage ones? And I know you have a nice con. Is that something you guys actively check? To see if your mouthpieces work on say vintage and modern horns as well.
Yeah, I do try and do that. I've
Mm.
got, I don't know, 4 or 5 tenors. I've got 5 altos. I've got 3 baritones.
Mm.
I have, uh, I definitely have some good vintage,
Mm.
and uh, good Mark sixes and some
Mm.
super balanced action,
Mm.
and then I have some good Taiwan horns.
Mm.
The modern
Mm.
basic Selmer
Mm.
copies, but a lot of them play great.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
There's some really good horns out there. So you can, if you don't, uh, you know, you don't necessarily have to. You. It's always, if you can afford it, you get the best thing you can
Yeah.
get.
Yeah.
But there's some very good values out there with
Oh yeah,
some of the Taiwanese horns right now.
for sure.
Some great.
Yeah, I think I heard a video of you recently playing. I think it was the HR Star and the Jet on your Con 10M, and man,
Uh,
it's really really nice and works so well. And I guess one thing we wanted to share also with the new HR Star Dark, especially on tenor, you are able to push in the mouthpiece a lot more. And I
yeah,
think that will probably help people who are perhaps playing a vintage horn and they are unable to
definitely.
push the mouthpiece in enough, and then they just dismiss a mouthpiece as no, it doesn't fit my saxophone. So was that something that you wanted to make sure? I'm sure you tested it on your vintage saxophone, so maybe you want to share more about that, for players to really get the right tuning spot.
That's super super important when you first get a new mouthpiece.
Mm.
You you want to do it right away. You want to tune up on a note so that because you might put it where your old mouthpiece is and it's in a different place.
Mm.
You're playing flat or you're playing sharp. You can't evaluate a mouthpiece like that.
Mm.
Some people don't have that. I play mouthpieces all day, and so I can hear if it's flat. When some people are testing mouthpieces, I just tell them push in or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that all the time, you can't feel it. But subconsciously, you can feel that something's not right,
Mm.
or your mind or your body almost knows it, and so you're trying to
Mm.
tense up and make it pull it up
Mm.
if it's flat.
Mm.
So it doesn't play as good. Low notes don't come out as well if it's not in the right position. You got to get in tune. So tune up on the note that you like to tune up in.
Mm.
And people play out of tune because they tune up on the wrong note.
Mm.
For example, if they tune up on a low G, they usually will push in too much and they'll be playing sharp when they get up top.
Mm.
And if they tune up on a high B, they pull out too much because saxophone players loosen up on the bottom and they tighten up on the top on the high notes.
Yeah.
So you want to blame the horn or you want to blame me. It's not me, it's you.
Yeah.
You have to find one grip
Yeah.
and then play with enough air. So as you go up higher, you don't have to bite. You support the air. Now you're in tune. You find the right place. So that's a real journey for people. But make sure, I say all these things. When you get the new mouthpiece, find the best reed for it. Find the best reed for it, and then you can evaluate it. Also, get in tune right away. So, and if the mouthpiece has to pull out a lot, pull it out. If it has to push in a lot, push it in. Don't worry about it. Just get in tune. So, Yeah, the custom dark works really well. It works great on the Mark Sixes and everything,
Mm.
but on those old horns, I've had that Con 10M since I was 15.
Wow.
It's a great one,
Wow.
and it works beautiful on it. Whereas the HR Star on a 10M
Mm.
is kind of
Yeah.
far out on the neck.
Mm.
For me, it's fine because I play very loose,
Mm.
but a lot of people play tighter, and for them, that's
Yeah.
a little bit out on the neck for
Mm.
some people.
That's really important. I think we've been learning so much, from you, and also how to approach. When we get a new mouthpiece, we need time. We need to take the right steps, to do the testing justice, rather than just dismiss it after, 30 seconds and say, nah, this is not for me. I think that's not doing, any of the hard work that you guys as a company put in, if someone just dismisses it because too hard to read, or too soft, or they're not at the right tuning spot. And I think that's really gonna give people the best chance, to really feel, every different mouthpiece that they want to try, be it at the shop or at these trade shows. I'm sure you have tons of players coming through and trying, and yeah, hopefully everyone who's watching, they realize the importance of it. Just take the right steps, slow it down, take a deep breath, and and try to really feel what this mouthpiece can give you. So talking about tuning spots, it's so true. What would what notes do you like to tune on, to make sure you get everything sorted out?
I tune probably on a concert A or B flat,
Okay.
and with the second octave on alto,
Mm.
and I might even tune on that same concert A on the tenor,
Mm.
or even the B flat, playing
Mm.
the C or B3.
Mm.
But then you have to make sure that you're not tightening too much. You've got to tune on a few notes.
Mm.
So if you tune on the second octave
Mm.
and then check your lower octave,
Mm.
yeah, so for some people it's going to be this adjustment.
Mm.
You might be a little flat on the bottom and a little sharp on top. You've got to
Mm.
find that midpoint and then really work this.
Mm.
I don't want people to stress out about playing with their chromatic tuner,
Mm.
because the nature of what we do, especially if we're expressive, we are putting so much nuance and so much.
Yeah.
We're not trying to hit the pitch exactly on it every time.
Mm.
If you do that, you start sounding like a MIDI sax. So you're going to see that pitch fluctuate a little bit when you're looking at your chromatic tuner.
Mm.
But you do have to see if you can settle on the right pitch.
Yeah.
And so playing with the chromatic tuner can be good, but not obsessing over it. Also good just to, play with one hand and play the piano with the other. Make sure you're tuning up to real notes, not just a needle.
Mm.
So it's like, in a good practice, we have time for everything.
Yeah.
Breathing first, long tone second, maybe intonation, playing scales, playing with metronome, playing repertoire, learning tunes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad to hear you say that also, because I also tell a lot of players and students, we shouldn't be too fixated on that tuner. So for me, actually, I like to tune on, let's say I'm on tenor, so the concert B flat, just middle C, and then but I'll go down to the low G and the high G. So almost like playing a small Star Wars theme. So that just works for me personally. Of course, I'm still tweaking as I go, but once I make sure, I get my middle range and the lows and highs, working. But after that, I turn off the tuner. And even in my practice, I play tunes, I play scales, and that for me helps to work on the tuning, because if we are transcribing a tune or learning a tune, we know how it sounds in our head, so hopefully, just by not being over reliant on the tuner, of course I get it, spot on at the right spot, and then I guess the rest is actually up to us, as the player to manipulate that as we go, and but not many people want to say that, sometimes in public, because it's politically correct to say, you should always be playing with your tuner all the time, so
Definitely not.
yeah.
It would ruin your musicality.
Mm.
But Emilio in Boston, the famous repairman,
Mm.
told me that Stan Getz was in one time, and they put up a chromatic tuner,
Mm.
and Stan Getz played a major scale, and the needle never moved. He
Wow.
he was doing it. He knew the tuner was on, and
Wow.
Stan Getz was just a genius musician,
Wow.
and he nailed it so much in tune. But when we hear him
Wow.
play, he puts so much inflection. He
Mm.
puts bending and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But he had, is it like a abnormally gifted musician?
Yeah, really. And people always just the music that I listen from Stan Getz, a lot of it is, the bossa nova tunes and everything, but man, he is as close to a genius as, as can be, just the amount of just musicality that he has, playing all sorts of, types of music. So really, really amazing. And I think he was using like size 4 or 5 reeds, and working
Yeah, and
hard on
that's
it.
part of that dryness and
Mm.
darkness of his tone, definitely.
Yeah.
Because if he was using 2.5s, he would have a much buzzier tone. John Laporta told me that he saw a double bill. So John Coltrane and Stan Getz were playing both at the Village Vanguard. They would alternate sets.
Wow.
And he said after Coltrane played, Stan Getz came on, and then he was sounding like Coltrane.
Wow.
Like Stan Getz was a serious bebop player. Bebop was his love, but he fell into the bossa novas, and it made him rich.
Yeah.
But it was still great music. But
yeah.
he was a serious bebop player. But like, I believe it. I believe that after hearing Coltrane, one set, he could sound like him.
Wow.
Not to take anything away from Coltrane.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I
But-
think it was Tony Lakatos who told me this. He heard Michael Brecker and Stan Getz both live. And he was saying the funny thing is everyone thinks that Stan Getz had a very soft and warm sound. But
Yeah.
he told me that Michael Brecker actually sounds really soft compared to Stan Getz. Like Stan Getz
Wow.
could play without a microphone, and Stan Getz is way louder a player than Michael
Wow.
Brecker. So that was really interesting, because sometimes the recordings that we hear don't do that justice, but that was so interesting as well. A lot of what we hear, could be, of course, processed through the microphones and dependent on the, front of house engineers. But that was a really interesting thought, that someone like Stan Getz, I mean, he could push tons of air, if he wanted to. And yeah, him playing bebop, people sometimes freak out, when they find videos of him, doing like, rhythm changes at a really fast tempo. But he had all of that, and he probably
Yeah.
chose not to, do that all the time, just whenever he felt like it,
The market chose it for him. He said,
Yeah.
my bebop records didn't sell.
Yeah.
And he decided to go with that. But he gave us some beautiful music, whatever he did.
Yeah, so interesting. And just to jump in quickly, I was talking to Eric Marienthal on the show, and he actually shared with me that Eric said he's tried Michael Brecker's Mark 6, and he thought it was one of the worst playing Mark 6 he has ever tried. And apparently Michael Brecker said everyone who's tried it told him the same thing, And I think I was telling Eric he might have single-handedly brought down the prices of all the Mark Sixes in that serial number range. But yeah, Michael
No,
Brecker.
because Andy Snitzer was here, and he has Michael Brecker's
Yeah.
second or third Mark Six,
Yes.
and it's a monster.
Oh, wow.
After that one, I got another Mark Six that was more like it.
Wow.
It's a monster. It's great.
Wow.
It had a lot of volume and a lot of presence and response. So I didn't play that first horn. I don't think. Actually, I might have. In the 90s, I started to think my tenor, all I had was the Con 10M. And I started to think, I really need a Mark 6. And Michael Brecker was a friend of mine, and
Wow.
I went to his house, and I asked him, I said, can you play my 10M, my Con, and can you play my Mark 6? I want to hear him. He played his Mark 6. Sounded amazing. Huge sound, actually. And then he played the Con 10M, and at first he said, oh, the fingers are hard, and then he played it for about 10 minutes, and he was ripping it up. And the sound, to me, was much better on the Con 10M. And that already decided it for me. I didn't need a new horn. But then I wanted to play, his horn and my horn. I wanted to play now. And so to take his Mark 6, and I was about to play, and I just knew what I was about to play was going to sound so like a kid, like a baby. So I took the biggest breath I had ever taken in my life. And that's how I was like trying to approach playing after him. But that day I decided I didn't need another horn. And he actually he liked my horn. He went and bought a Con 10M, but he never played it out. He had every mouthpiece known to man there in these drawers because everybody sent him mouthpieces. He sounded really great on the DV.
Wow.
Fat. He played a lot of my mouthpieces in those early years.
Wow. Very interesting.
We'd try them out when I would bring them.
Yeah, I heard from Andy Snitzer that he was, and Andy Snitzer is going to come on the show, I think in June 19th or 12th. I can't remember off my head, but monster player, and he's loving his Trevor James a lot, but I think he was a great personal friend of Michael Brecker, and he still has one of those horns, and I think he used that a lot as a reference for the Trevor James Raw that he's playing now. So they got him as a consultant, test a few things. So I have one of the Trevor James signature custom Raw. It's a great horn, and but so interesting about Mark Sixes, and Michael Brecker, just incredible. Eric Marienthal was saying, since Michael Brecker offered to let him try the tenor, so he thought, okay, I shall offer his alto to let Michael Brecker try. And of course, Michael Brecker hardly touches alto, and with a Beechler mouthpiece, which is can be really slim. He said Michael Brecker took his alto and just blew into it, and it just sounded phenomenal. As though he was playing alto all his life. And I hear that story so much, even with flute, with drums, with guitar. Michael Brecker just sits at the drum set and seems as though he's, that's his main instrument, which is just so amazing.
I had him on recording playing my alto, and it was one of these mini discs, and I lost it. He played first like Charlie Parker. He sounded like Charlie Parker, and he started playing, and then he started sounding more like Brecker, and then by the end, it didn't even sound like an alto. I never heard alto sound like that.
Wow.
It was the most amazing thing I've ever heard.
Wow.
It was so cool, and every day I'm so sorry I lost that recording.
Wow.
It was amazing. So he's one of those legendary, unbelievable guys.
Man, amazing. I think maybe we could hear a bit more from you. So, do you have any idea? What was Michael Brecker's approach to mouthpieces in general? Was he, always searching? Like, when people send it to him, would he, you know, really try them and see whether it could top what he was currently playing, or what was his journey like, in terms of mouthpieces?
Well, he had this problem with his neck.
Mm.
Um, it kind of like blew out, and
Mm.
he was on a lot of loud gigs and stuff
Mm.
in the 70s, and so he got with Gardala, and they made a mouthpiece that was very efficient, easy to play, and he was loyal. He wasn't going to change. He wasn't going to move anywhere.
Mm.
So, like when he played my ESP, and then I brought the DV, the first DV. I made him play it in a black box, and I made Pharoah Sanders play this in a black box. I had this box around it so they couldn't look at this part. So they would put their mouth here, and there was this black box because I was applying for a patent.
Wow.
And imagine I had Michael Brecker play that, Pharoah Sanders, and Ed Collier. And Ed fell in love with the mouthpiece right away. And Michael Brecker put it on, and he sounded great. He sounded fat. And he said, it was just something. I mean, he said, I'm not changing. So everybody sent him mouthpieces. He wasn't going to change. He was on that mouthpiece, and he wasn't going to change. So, but when he put his original mouthpiece back on, he's going to say, now I'm going to sound like a not good word. So, but the DV just added this fatness. And, the Gardalas, those were great mouthpieces. So, but that's what I was trying to do with the DV. I took a Gardala and a Dukov and everything, and the whole goal was to see how much fatness I could get in there, bottom and mids, and still keep that level of presence and volume for live gigs. So, and I feel that's one of the most special things about this, and how smooth it plays.
Oh, that's really, really interesting to hear, about the approach, and, we didn't think that we'll be moving on and talking about Michael Brecker, etc. But, that's really interesting to know. And, I think we definitely appreciate you and your time. I know it's really late there, but man, I mean, it's been so insightful, and I really hope the rest who are watching, will just learn so much from the questions and your answers. And the good thing is it stays, on YouTube, forever. So, I think this is just gonna help so many people who come along the way, and they search for information about this, and we really appreciate you. But before, we let you go, we really wanna hear your sharing a bit more about Rousseau mouthpieces as well, which I think maybe not many people know, but maybe you can share more about Rousseau mouthpieces now.
So, this January of 2020, I purchased Rousseau mouthpieces. This is actually at least in the United States, quite a famous brand for over 40 years. Eugene Rousseau is a very famous saxophone teacher and performer. He's really one of the people who've developed the modern Yamaha saxophone, because he was their consultant for many, many years, and he flew to Japan often. He taught at the University of Indiana, even when Michael Brecker was there. But he was a player, and he studied with Marcel Mule, who my teacher Joe Viola studied with. He was one of the kind of very, big fathers
Mm.
of the saxophone sound, teaching at the Paris Conservatory.
Mm.
So Eugene Rousseau was such a great teacher and such a beautiful man. He has all these professors in the universities, especially in the United States,
Mm.
that play his mouthpiece. He made a mouthpiece. His mouthpiece was different in that it had a different design. It has, after the baffle, it has this dip that's unusual. It gets a certain sound, but it has a little more projection than a lot of the classical mouthpieces. They're great mouthpieces. He also has jazz mouthpieces that are really good. So I had already started the Shedville company, and I wasn't really looking to buy another company, but him and his daughter called me and asked me if I wanted to buy it, because he's retiring, and I know the mouthpieces and they're great. When I was developing Shedville, of course, the Rousseau mouthpieces were one of the many brands that I had to try different classical mouthpieces, and the Rousseau was my favorite among all of the brands. The very common classical saxophone mouthpieces.
Yeah.
Rousseau was my favorite.
Wow.
So I didn't make a mouthpiece like the Rousseau in the Shedville, but that was actually my top one. So of course I said yes, I would love to, and we were able to work out a deal. And I said, why did you call me? Because there were many other people that wanted to buy it. Some people were mad that he didn't offer it. Some big companies. But he said, well, you're stable. You've been in business. You are a saxophone player. You've run your business, and he was really nice to me. So that's what happened, and those mouthpieces are made at the Babbitt factory, and they have been, and we're working now really closely with Babbitt, and we're going to institute our policy of playing every single mouthpiece, and so we'll be getting those mouthpieces out soon. It's been a process since I bought the company to get the production and work on it, and so it's an exciting thing because they've had a price point that to me was too low. But it's still going to be less expensive than Jody Jazz. And you'll be surprised, Daniel, at some of these jazz mouthpieces. I was surprised that 40% of their sales are jazz mouthpieces. They have one called the JDX, which is a little on the bright side, but really good. And you'll be blown away by the baritone JDX.
Wow.
And then they have a Studio Jazz that's pretty close in the way it plays to a Meyer, which is very good. And they're classical, they're NC4, beautiful sounding, but it also lets you project. So it's a real exciting thing. He for me, he's like my teacher Joe Viola. My teacher at Berkeley was Joe Viola, and he was just so special. And Eugene Rousseau was like this with his students. And so I went up and met him, and we had a long talk and everything. And, my idea mostly with this company is to keep his tradition going and to really work hard and with the consistency, because this is a molded mouthpiece. So, which you can make a great mouthpiece, but there's harder work to keep it consistent. So that's my goal. And it's very difficult to run 3 companies.
Yeah.
So, but you know, we're in it for the long run, and whatever we do, we're going to try and do our best and make sure it's a good quality, great quality.
Wow.
So that's what's happening, and
Yeah.
people will be seeing them very soon. You know, they'll start appearing more widely in the at the end of the summer and in the fall. They had an exclusive distributorship with Con Selmer, and now which when we bought the company, they still had that agreement in place, and we've made an agreement with Con Selmer that they will be the exclusive distributor, and we can also sell. So those stores around the world that don't have an agreement with Con Selmer, they can buy with Con Selmer or they can buy from us. So we feel we're going to get that mouthpiece out, and I think you guys will probably carry it.
Yep.
And so people will get to try it.
Yeah.
In the classical and jazz, this is you know, especially around the world outside of the United States, it's not as known.
Yeah.
It's going to surprise a lot of people at a very good price.
Wow. Yeah, I think, you know, being able to carry on the legacy of Mr. Rousseau, and those mouthpieces are good. You know, the rubber sounded good, you know, the designs were good, and the price point was just unbelievable. But, you know, I think, you know, coupled with, you know, you guys running the show now, play testing, you know, and I think it's just going to be another level. So we're definitely very excited to offer them in the shop as a great option, you know. And of course there are merits, and same for the rest of your Jody Jazz line. You know, we're just excited that, you know, it's in your hands now, you know, and we can definitely expect the same level of, you know, of quality and you know, aiming for perfection with these mouthpieces. So yeah, it's if sometimes it feels almost like, you know, resurrecting, you know, this brand. I'm sure some people might have heard of it, you know, in this part of the world, but maybe not in the last 10 years. They haven't been hearing much, you know. So yeah, we're looking forward to working with you guys and to just push it out into the hands of players, you know, to let them try it and give it another shot. You know, it's all about options. And same for the classical. You're right, you know, like in our shop, classical options are just so limited, and that's something we've been wanting to change. And then, so, you know, with Chatville and now with Rousseau classical mouthpieces, I think it will really give some of the other brands, you know, something to think about in that sense, you know. So definitely really excited for that. And yeah, so you guys can keep updated, you know, it's definitely coming up. And same for the HR Star Dark Alto mouthpiece, you know. Do follow the Jody Jazz social media pages, and you know, and of course,
they can sign up on the newsletter as well. That's a good way to keep up. You just go onto the website, sign up to the newsletter.
That would be perfect. You know, you want to be the first to know, and for sure on our side, you know, with the shop, we're definitely gonna let you guys know as well. So, you know, Jody, we could really go on for, you know, a long time. You know, there's so many things that, you know, we thought we would get to sharing about, but we haven't yet. But you know, we're happy to, you know, have you on again, you know, down the road, and to be able
we'd love to.
Yeah, it's just so great, you know. And thank you for taking the time, really, you know, to connect. I mean, you have 3 companies and 3 kids, and it's just, I don't know how you do it, but we
Daniel,
love it.
I want to thank you very much.
No problem at all.
You are, you know, we talked last week just testing this, and we talked for 2 hours of it. Because you're, you know, very astute, very knowledgeable, and you have a lot of great questions, and so we had a great conversation. It's, you know, Music Elements is the shop, right?
So Music Elements is our the bigger shop, and then SAXO is so we run two shops in the same premises.
So I mean, you guys are a great dealer, and so the service you're providing is one of the best in the world because of the selection. So if people are even traveling through, and they can get to your shop, and they're very lucky to have you because you're such a good player, but you're really knowledgeable and you have a business sense. Uh, so you know the opportunity. I appreciate the opportunity very
Mm.
much, and everything you're doing. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. I mean, it makes our lives so much easier when, sometimes as a businessman, there are people who have to hard sell products, and I always tell my customers, like, I don't even need to say much, just give it a try because these brands that we carry, and it's interesting because there are new mouthpiece brands coming out every other week, because everyone thinks they can make a mouthpiece. Everyone thinks they can make their own saxophone brand, but man, it's not as easy as that. So we have so many people emailing us all the time wanting to send samples. Please sell it in Singapore, in Asia. But we have to draw a line somewhere. So I'm really glad, to be almost that barrier, so I want to love the pieces that we carry, the brands that we carry, and then when people ask us for our opinion, that all the options that we have in our shop are great options. We're not trying to push someone for a quick sale, even though deep down we know it's not a good product. So we're so thankful to have worked with you for a few years now, and it just makes our life easier as a shop. Your business decisions really help us as a dealer as well, so it's been a great relationship, and yeah, of course, many more years to come. And with Rasul, that's just gonna be, it's beneficial for the players, as well as for us at the shop. We know we're gonna have another good product at a great price. We spoke about this, just punching way above its weight class. And I know Rasul because I know this brand since like 20 years ago when I first started. There were shops in Singapore selling them, but not really pushing it out. I gave them a try and I'm like, wow, but for the past 20 years, probably no one in Singapore has gotten to even play one, so
Mm.
we're really excited. Yeah, just get that in people's hands. And man, I'm looking forward to the next time we can catch up again. And
Okay.
thank you so much for your time and what you're doing. You could have been doing any other thing rather than being at the factory at this time of the night, but we really appreciate it. And yeah, if you guys have any
My
questions,
pleasure.
you can email, through the Jody Jazz website. You never know, Jody might be the one replying you himself. That's something that I'm still amazed because I couldn't I don't think I could reply to even everyone, who contacts the shop, but it's just amazing
Well,
what you
yeah,
do.
I don't do everyone, but I still do the 6 questions.
Mm,
And
mm,
you know, the reason I can do some of this is because I do have a great crew. So
mm,
I don't deal. I deal with the the mouthpieces. You know,
mm,
the R&D, the research and development, the
mm,
making the new mouthpieces,
mm.
uh, the traveling when I go out selling.
Yeah.
But I don't have to deal with, like, I never see the orders that you guys make, and you know, I have
Yeah.
really great crew
Yeah.
that deals with so much.
Mm,
So I play the mouthpieces, I test, I develop new stuff, I can sell, but I have that little time so that I can deal with customers still,
mm.
which I love. Love to talk to people. Um, you know, guy called me the last 2 days in a row. I met you in Germany in the Frankfurt show 4 years ago or 8 years
Wow.
ago or something. I'm playing the DV. I love it. I can't get my altissimo, and what reed are you playing, and this and that. You know, you should play a harder reed. And but what he told me, and I said, you know, I think you should try a Superjet. And he got it in a store in Germany, and he
Wow.
called me today. He said, Jody, and I wrote him a long email with altissimo
Mm.
advice and all this
Wow.
stuff. But he called me and he said, Jody, I love it. Love the Superjet. It's
Wow.
perfect.
Wow.
So
That's
so I love that. I love talking to people, and
so
you
much
know.
to so much for me to learn from you in that aspect. Sometimes it gets overwhelming. My innate, um desire is to be able to, of course, do one-on-one with every single customer and take them through. But man, some days, it can it can take a toll, so to see someone like you who's been in it for 20 years, and I don't have kids. I have 4 cats, and that's already enough of a it takes a lot of time already. So I really, really respect you as a business owner. And of course, the playing is just amazing. I think that's just wonderful.
Thanks.
And yeah, it's so nice to be able to connect in that way and to be able to share this experience with more people. Like I always say, I could have just asked Jody for a private Zoom call, and then I would be the only one benefiting from all this knowledge. But we want to set up the infrastructure so that it's beam live to YouTube, to Facebook, and it lives on. And I think that's so valuable. And thank you for taking the time, more than 2 hours of your time. But I know this relationship will not stop here. So we're looking forward, to updating everyone about any new exciting news, new mouthpieces, and maybe new acquisitions down the road. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So thank you so much again, Jody, and we
Yeah.
really appreciate it. If you guys are watching tonight in Singapore at 10 p.m., we're actually having Eric Falcon and Adrian Chia. I really like to do, international collaborations in that sense. Just, our world needs, all these positive relationships right now. So it was a conscious decision to have, just people who are great at their craft, at their field, and then we all gather together as one big saxophone community. So many more such things to come. And, I have Michael Linton on my show, on my personal page this weekend. So many things to look forward to. We'll keep blasting out to you guys. So thank you so much for catching our show. And yeah, we're going to call it a night and hope to see you
Okay.
guys at the next show. So thank you again, Jody. We really, really appreciate it.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you. See you
Bye, everybody.
guys.